Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 Wells Fargo Championship. This is my preview show, and I'm going to cover my favorite bets and my long shot. And as always, I'm going to do a complete course breakdown. Going to share my custom models that I've developed with you guys. We're going to go over a recap, of course, of the Mexico Open. Everything that you need to start thinking about who you want to play from a DFS fantasy golf perspective, and of course get those bets in early before they start getting losing their odds. So with that said, let's talk some golf. Okay, so real quick, the Mexico Open. I'm not sure how you guys felt about it, but I thought it was a pretty good tournament. I enjoyed it. Of course, no shocker, Jon Rahm, who I think had about a 42% ownership in the large GPP for 250K Draftkings. So it wasn't, I think everybody was on him, and we kind of stated, if he even brought his B minus game, he should win this tournament. Hence, that's about what he did. I pulled up some stroking analysis here in his scorecard, whatever. Fantasy National, for whatever reason, was having issues getting the shot length data, but we did have shot length data for this tournament, which is a little unique. Typically on Pass Palom or when you go to Mexico, we don't get such things, but we did get the stroking data. And with that said, you could kind of see Jon Rahm first 2 days pretty much had an AA minus game. The putter finally started to work. He was tee to green, strong against this field and even on this course. And it was, I kind of predicted 18 under would be the winning score. It ended up being 17 under. I think it felt like some of the guys, just would have that spike day or two, but just couldn't keep it going for 4 rounds. And Jon Rahm, he ended up going wire to wire, even though I think he got some lucky breaks on his final Sunday round. We'll talk about that. There was definitely opportunities for some other people to win. Of course, I was betting, of course, on other folks, as probably a lot of you were. I don't know who wanted to bet Jon Rahm at 3.5 to 1 or 3 to 1. Like, yay, unless you're going to put, 100K on it or something like that. Then it'd be something to talk about. Anyways, I just want to go right to the Sunday round, and then we'll kind of move on with this. Jon Rahm, it's hard to win on tour. And with that said, he had to get a couple breaks, and he did. So I believe it was number 7, the drivable par 4. He actually drove it over the green, and it came very close to going into a penalty and an area that he probably could not have got out of or play, but it didn't. He was able to chip, make his birdie, so that was a huge break. But the biggest break came on number 16, where he hooked the ball off the tee to the left, and it was going in a hazard, and he would not have been able to play it, and it actually hit a golf cart. It shot back all the way down a hill, almost onto the fairway. So even if, let's hypothetically say it wouldn't have went into hazard, but he would still have been in trees and probably would not have been able to go for the green or go towards it. He would have to come out sideways. He would, worst case, had a bogey. Could have been a double bogey. Long story short, he makes his par and hence goes on to win the tournament. Now, someone that was not as lucky, of course, someone that I was betting on, I got him at 70 to 1, Cameron Champ. And I told you guys, when you see a little spike, which we did see at the Masters, I think he ended up 10th, and on this course, it was a great fit. And even the odds makers were already hip to it that he had an opportunity to win this tournament. Hence, because we typically get him at the 150 to 100 to 1 lately. I mean, he's pretty much been trash except between his wins. But if you could find that one win per year that he typically gets, you can make a nice little pay. The largest bet that I've ever hit was actually on Cameron Champ at the 3M Open. Long story short, of course, on number 8, he was right there, a stroke behind Rahm, and just misses the fairway. It goes down the embankment. Well, it didn't go down. It actually plugged in the embankment, which I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, because then he got out of there, but then the ball was covered in mud, which hence the dimples are now covered in mud, and you don't know where that ball is going to go. And, of course, when he hit his approach, it hooked hard left, and then he, struggled from there. I think it took him 4 or 5 strokes from there. I got him out of the tournament, and that kind of eliminated my hopes. And you can see from a stroking data with him, a good first couple rounds, struggled on the last day, pretty much in all categories. And then the last guy, of course, Tony Finau, who was my second pick. So, of course, like everyone, I'm not taking no pat on the back, picked Rahm. And then even Finau, I think it was a little bit tougher pick, just as in we really didn't see a whole lot of life, except again at the Masters with a little life with Tony. But he's been playing pretty bad golf, mostly around the green and putting. The ball striking has been pretty solid. That really came to fruition on Sunday, where he shot 8 under and got there, right there, got that T2. Typical Tony the Tiger ends up with that T2. If you look at his stroking data, this guy should have hands down won this tournament. Now, I didn't have a bet on him. I think again he was what mid-teens, 20 to 1, something like that. That again, just not enough for me to worry about. If you saw the first couple rounds he played, again, he greens and reg and driving, all that was amazing. It was the putter again that was haunting him, but he finally on the last 2 rounds gained with the putter, and away it went. Right, so if Tony could have made a few more of those 4 or 5 footers in the first couple rounds, he could have easily shot, I don't know, 20 under here. And you could say about that, I mean, a lot of the different guys that missed their putts. I mean, the guys that were not that good at ball striking, you could really see the guys that made the putting that gained like 7, 8 strokes were the guys that really were up there. All right. For me, and then someone asked, hey, do I do a recap or a post-mortem of how I did? Of course, I'm one of the rare analysts, as far as I'm concerned, that document that puts out my picks where you can visually go see them, and they are there, etched in stone forever. But I give you guys 15 of my top plays, from the top to down to 7K. And then I give you on the final day my 5 cheapy plays, the guys below 7K. And out of those 20, I believe, I didn't sit there and doubt, but I believe either 15 or 16 of them made it to the weekend. And then what I know for sure is my top 5. I picked first place, second place, and sixth place with Aaron Wise. Of course, I had Woodland and I forgot the other person that was in there, but it doesn't matter. They did all right, not as good as we hoped, per se. I know the one that really hurt me was Scott Stallings. I was a bit shocked because that course should have fit him great, and he was playing pretty good golf. And then one of my, and I also had Alex Smalley. That was in my unsung, my top 15. And then the bottom side for my cheapies, there was, I think, 2 that made it through and actually did well, Mullinex, and I'm going to forget the other one, but it doesn't matter. I mean, long story short, I give myself a B-, like the Brandon Wu. He missed 10 cuts before that, showed up at the Puerto Rico before that. So that was a hard one to call. Yeah, Kitayama, where he was showing up in the modeling from a driving perspective, but the rest of the game I was kind of about. So, those were, if you had those guys, David Lipsky, who's been just total trash, ended up, up in the top of the board. So you had a few of those guys that, just out of nowhere. But what's also interesting about Kurt Kitayama, and I put this in my notes, was that his 2 wins on the DP World Tour were on Pass Palm. And I did not know that. I didn't go check. Wasn't really concerned about him. I didn't go check his DP World Tour, but that information came out after the fact. There's always that little beautiful nugget of information you hear after the fact. If I'd have known that, no way would I've not been playing him and betting him. And then the last thing, of course, I think there was a lot of buzz around that. Was it Patrick Flavin? I did not pick him for you guys. I didn't like. I mean, he had 3 rounds, and there was some. There was he's done well on Pass Palm and this and that, but there wasn't enough for me, so I didn't really play him at all. All right. With that said, let's change focus. Let's talk about this Wells Fargo Championship. Of course, it is not going to be played at Quail Hollow because of the President's Cup, and because they're taking that course away from the members already for a bit. They didn't want to take it away even more. So that's why, because a lot of people might be thinking, well, I don't get this. This is a setup for a PGA kind of setup for the President's Cup. Why can you not play the Wells Fargo there for 4 days? And that's why the members would have a fit. All right. So that said, they are heading to Potomac, Maryland, right by Washington, D.C. And this course is the TPC Potomac at Avenel Farm. Quicken Loans National was there, and so we have quite a bit of history of some sort with this course. I mean, it's not Quail Hollow, but the good news is this is not the Mexico Open, where we do have some stuff we can look at. Of course, the Kemper Open used to be played here, then it became the Booz Allen, and then the Quickens Loan was played here 2 years, 2017-18. You can go take a look at the course and the tournament on YouTube. Just type in round 1, round 2 highlights, the Quicken Loans, 2017 or 18, and you go see it for yourself. There's been quite a few different architects. What I put Jim Hardy, who did the major renovation back in 2017. They put about $40 million into this course. The problem with this course is that it was getting flooded. It's in a low area, and so a lot of the pros did not like to come play here. The conditions at times could be bad, so it became kind of an alternate event, hence the Booz Allen or even the Kemper Open. So that was a big, kind of knock on the course. I don't know, if you look at this field, it's not terrible, but it's not what we typically see for a Wells Fargo. I've always said, like, Wells Fargo, of course you got the Genesis at Riviera. There's certain tournaments that are kind of major-esque mini and like. I put the Wells Fargo right there. Of course, you also got at Jack's Place at Murfield, the Memorial. There's certain big name tournaments, and I'm shocked that the field is kind of not, it's not that great. It's not terrible, but it's not that great. It's a very tough course. It's a par 70 playing 7,100 yards, a little over 7,100 yards. You got bent grass fairways and you've got bent grass greens, and your rough is going to be penal. It's 3 inches right now. That's a tall fescue mixed with a Kentucky bluegrass. So if you get in there, it's not going to be easy peasy. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the end of the world, but what we've been seeing is that not a lot of rough has been causing any effect. That's you're not penalized if you go into rough, especially like what we saw at the Mexico Open. This player feels a little bigger than what we've been seeing. You're at 156 players, cut to T, 65 in ties. What does that mean? It's going to be a little hard to get that 6-6 through. And then I'm using some information, of course, from the Quicken Loans. So the historical cut line there for the last 2 tournaments we saw there was +2 to +5. And also taking the winning scores there. Of course, you have Molinari win in 2018, who blitzed the field, shot 21 under, and I believe like the next closest was like 15 under. And then Kyle Stanley back in 2017, he went to a playoff with Mr. CH3, Charles Howe, the ATM, and shot 7 under. So you can see right there, quite a disparity. And like I said, Molinari, that was far skewed. I think, again, the score that will win this thing, I think upper teens again, somewhere around 17, 18 under is probably what will win this thing. And average green size, just a hair less than average. I think the average green size is around 5,000 square feet. The greens here are about 4,200 square feet. You've got 80 sand bunkers along the fairway or around the green, and they're pretty deep. You've got 7 water hazards that is allowing 10 holes to have areas of water. I'll go into that a little more specific. And then these greens are lightning fast. They're running at 12.5, which is not too far off from what Augusta was running at. And they're very sloping and very undulating. So tough greens. Now, the course defense, of course, you can look at the greens. Of course, that water I mentioned is kind of running through some fairways, along some fairways. You've got some lakes, some little ponds. You got marsh. You've got the trees. The fairways are kind of tighter. I don't want to say super tight, but they're kind of tighter. I already mentioned the rough, the bunkers. Yeah. So there's a lot out there, and I didn't even bring up wind. I haven't looked at the weather yet. It's going to be a little cooler, of course, than what they've been used to. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that when the time comes. Some past notes. 62 is your course record, and that is held by 3 guys. Kevin Streelman, Abraham Anser, Francesco Molinari. And then an interesting little side note, Sung Kang back in 2017 and 2018 had a 3rd place and a T5 here. So that's kind of unique. What I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to look for the best ball strikers in the field. Then my next would be looking at guys that are kind of the strategic plotters. And then last but not least would be, guys that have length with hopefully accuracy. But what's going to win the day here ultimately is approach and putting, and we'll go over that. I'll show you some past winner information. All right, so to give you that course layout map, I'm going to kind of run through this pretty fast, but just so you can see already a lot of trees. It is, one thing I didn't mention, there is quite a bit of undulation, as in this is not a flat course. It's a bit hilly, and you can see some of that in this if you look deep enough. What does that mean? It means the ball is not going to be on a flat lie quite a lot. It's going to be below you, above you. You're hitting up on it, you're hitting down on it. So it means, you got to watch the cut balls, the overhook balls. So that's also a bit of the course defense. You can see if there's not water involved on these holes, like number 1, you got sand. That's going to come into play. Same with number 2. You can kind of see what I was mentioning, the kind of those mogul hills within the fairway. 3, you got a little bit of water over here that could come into play. That's a par 3, so it shouldn't be any issues. This par 4, you got water running down the whole length of the fairway. 5, you got a lot of sand, as you can see, and then you get to 6, and there's that kind of river marsh I was telling you about that runs down the whole fairway, and then, of course, it comes around this green, so you got to kind of hit your drive out here and then hit your approach. I was trying to see if that water came involved on 7. It does not. So 7, just some sand. 8, again, some sand around the green. 9, you get back to where you got this water kind of running along the green. Then you got 10 here, you tee off. That creek again is running along the whole side of the fairway. 11, you get a little water around the green, that creek. 12, again, you've got that creek or river running the whole way. And then again, you got to hit your drive and then cross over that. And there's the green. 13, yeah, I mean, you got this lake that could come into play if you hook it. And of course, the creek's running again around the green, and then there's that creek running all the way up 14 fairway. And then 15, it looks like you're kind of coming downhill. Nothing, a couple sand traps. 16, you got a little creek there, but nothing that's going to cause any issue. Just sand all along on the left. 17, kind of a semi island green. It looks like water is going to be protecting that whole front. So you're going to see some pin placements there, I'm sure. And then the finishing long, toughest hole on the course, 18, is a long par 4 working its way down the hill. Okay, so to give you some kind of more visual to what I'm talking about, you can see here. This is, I think, is number 10. This is that creek in the I'd say marsh that's running along it. You can see you got to hit a drive in a good spot to then make your approach. Kind of same on 11, just going the opposite way. Same thing, that creek's running along this whole way. So you got to hit a good drive out to here, then your approach. And then I believe this is 13 with that lake kind of on the left side the whole way. Shouldn't maybe be too big of an issue, I wouldn't say. For an amateur status, probably cause some problems. But again, you can see that elevated greens. And like I said, there is a bit of elevation here. All right, so to quickly run through the scorecard, this is pulling up, of course, that Quicken Loans information. There is 2 changes, a little adding of the yardage, and I'll show you that on the official scorecard. But you can kind of see kind of a gentle handshake. And then you get a couple tough holes, and this is typical: 6 birdie opportunities, 6 bogey opportunities. Hardest hole on the course is number 11, and you're going to notice there's 6 par 4s that are 450 to 500. So a bit of a defense. You got some long par 3s. You do have a drivable par 4. Where is that at? Right here, 300 yards. So you can see that's the easiest hole in the course. So, again, there's opportunities, but you're really going to need the irons and the tee ball to be 100%. All right, so here's the official scorecard, and I'll highlight the 2 areas they've added yardage. So you could see here, the second hole is par 5, second easiest hole in the course. They decided to add about, 20 yards, a little over 20 yards of length. And also it could be where they tee the ball up or where they set the tees. But on this number 10, they added, I believe, about 40 yards to this par 5, so to make that a little bit longer. So that was the only 2 changes. Everything else was exactly on. All right, so with all that said, I always kind of break down what is the skill set that we need to look at from a stroke game perspective. So what are the type of golfers that are going to do well here? And the number 1 thing is going to be approach. I'll show that with some past winners at the Quickens Loans. But approach is always key, but here it shows up that it is ultimately what's going to be success. So if you're gaining a lot on approach, you can, lose a little bit on your putting, or you can lose a little off the tee. But if you have, amazing irons, you're going to do a lot of damage, at least comparative to the field. Ball striking, that's combining off the tee and approach. And also always look at good ball strikers, typically hit their long irons and hybrids very well. This has actually changed. It's not good drives. I went with off the tee. Just the difference is off the tee is taking distance and hitting fairways combined. Good drives is, hey, it doesn't care about that. It's, you got to hit the fairway or the first cut, but it's about hitting on the second shot. Typically, when I look at plotter courses like, I don't know, RBC Heritage or Colonial, whatever, which is, this kind of falls into that mix. But I just ultimately went with off the tee instead of good drives. And going to look for good putters. Of course, I'm bent. Around the green, sand save shows up a little bit. Proximity to the pin, 175 to 200, shows up 24% of the time. So that's really high. That was the one proximity that really kind of compared to other courses they play. Stroke gain on the par 4s. There's 6 of those long par 4s, 450 to 500 I mentioned. Something that I typically don't add, but bogey avoidance. On tougher tracks, I like to put that in because par is going to be a bit of premium here. And then birdies, I always want to throw that in. And I always look at that when I'm doing my picks in a mini model. Okay, so we go look at some past winners. I wanted to show you guys this. Typically, I do this a little different, but this will work out fine. The key thing is, if you look at the guys who've done well here now, this is 2017 at the Quicken Loans. Kyle Stanley, really good ball striker, terrible putter. You can see that kind of showed up again. CH3, I mentioned, that was the playoff. Back in the day when Ricky Fowler was playing some golf. Martin Laird, I think, is interesting. There's that Sung Kang, Leishman, Johnson Wagner, which there's a name for the pass. Spencer, Benny Martin had a good showing. Kind of the pass palm specialist, keep in mind. Another great ball striker, but terrible putter, Keegan Bradley. And then David Lingermuth, again, another guy that typically you don't see, or he's in the 6,000 range. Long story short, if you look at the guys at the top 5, what they did really well was approach. and most of them did really well putting. Now, again, you can see Kyle Stanley kind of made up all in the other areas. So he lost a little bit on the putter, but he made enough to win. That was key. And then more recently, 2018, Francesco Molinari, I told you, I mean, he just lit it up with the irons, gained 10 strokes on the field, but also gained with the putter. And same thing, you can see, maybe a little different answer, didn't do as well on approach. Maybe gained a little more off the tee, but also still gained 2 strokes with the putter. So all that said, that's the 2 areas that I'm going to be focusing on. And again, you can look at just some names who've done well here. So you got your plotters, like a Brian Gay. I'd put Molinari in that bucket. I'd put Ryan Armour in that bucket. Sun King's not a bad ball striker. Of course, Tiger Woods, great iron player. Abraham Nancer, a bit of a plotter. Not real long, but very accurate off the tee. Good iron player. And then you got Bo Hosler, who's kind of interesting. Had some good showings here, so I'll talk a little more about him on the betting side. Then Justin Hadley, who did it all with the putter pretty much. And usually if he does well, like at Palmetto, he had a chance to win. It was a lot with the putter. All right, so that said, I have created a custom model for you guys. I'm going to go through some different things that I'm interested at that I'm going to share with you. And as always, I don't have any filters on, but this is, when I say filters, I'm not worried about, what's the green type or, length or par or any of that. I want to just get the last few tournaments these guys played. What have they done well for the recent form side? I already mentioned approach. I weighted heavily at 25%, ball striking at 20, 10% off tee. So that's like almost doubling down on those two. So tee to green, pretty much, tee to green takes in around the green. But if you want to call it just a ball striking period, I've got, 60%, 55%. Then putting, I got a 10. There's that, those par fours that there's 6 of them at 450 to 500. I got that at 10%. That proximity, 175 to 200, that's about almost 25% of the time. Got that at 10%. I put sand saves in, bogey avoidance, and birdies. Click on my rank, and that tells you who's the best at that over the last 3 tournaments or 12 rounds they played, and that's Corey Connors comes up number 1. And that makes total sense to me. Keegan Bradley, same thing. Max Homa. Anibal Lahiri actually was one of my picks for the Mexico Open, and he did all right. I think he top 20, somewhere around there. Paul Casey, we got to keep an eye on, right? He withdrew. Let's see, so it was a WGC match play. He pulled out of right before he was going to tee off, right? That kind of hosts some people. And then I believe he pulled out of the Masters. So, I forgot what it was. I felt like it was a wrist injury or something like that. But check on that before you get too excited with him. Gary Woodland, who should have done a lot better, but the putter kind of came back to where Gary Woodland typically putts. Terrible. You got Kim. Joel Damon, Doug Gim, great ball striker, terrible putter. Marty Laird, you got Rory McIlroy, Seb Straka, who's been playing really good golf. Henrik Norlander, usually the model always loves when you want a ball striker. Again, just typically a terrible putter. And Ryan Armour, who has done well here in the past. And then Russ Henley, one of my favorite guys to keep throwing money at and losing from a betting perspective. All right, for ball striking purely, so now I'm just looking at who's the best ball strikers out of this field over the last, again, 3 tournaments. 12 rounds, no filters. You get Max Homa number 1, which, of course, he has won the Wells Fargo, but you can't even bring that stuff up because it's on a total different course. Brendan Steele got some length off the tee. There's Keegan Bradley again, Corey Connors. There's my Austin Smotherman, who was kind of Jekyll and Hyde at the Mexico Open already. He had I think he came out, shot 3 or 4 under first day, then shot like 3 or 4 over, and then shot, it was and they had a pretty decent Sunday. But yeah, he kind of hurt me on some of my DFS stuff, but I'm going to stay with him for a bit. I think he's got a lot of talent. Just got to get that around the green putter fixed. Of course, Rory, your past champion for the Wells Fargo, but again, total different course. Paul Casey, Woodland, Laird, Neesmith, Doug Gim, Henley, Aniban. So it's almost like same exact guys, just kind of got moved around a little bit. All right, now if you want to know who's the best putter on Bitgrass, that's it. That's what I'm looking at here. And this is over the last 6 tournaments or 24 rounds. Your number 1 guy is your Ryder Cup captain over there, Zach Johnson, who, if you remember, I think at the RBC, he withdrew, and I think I had him in 1 lineup, but I told you guys I'm not a fan of Zach Johnson. Now, I know he's a good person, but personally, just not a fan of playing him or betting him, and I kind of mentioned my reasons before. You got Bo Hosler, Troy Merritt, Rory, Johnson Wagner, Hughes, Shank, Griffin, Adam Long. Pretty good showing. Was one of my picks at the Mexico Open. Abraham Answer, who I faded, and that worked out well at the Mexico Open. You got Brian Stewart, Jackson, Michigan, Central Michigan golfer. Always typically like to play him if he's below 7,000, which he is. especially on this kind of track. Jim Noss, Curtis Thompson, Seamus Power, and then you got Killer Keith, who had a real nice showing at Quail last year. Had a chance there on Sunday to possibly win, but Rory took it. All right. The other thing I always like to look at is proximity to pins. So overall, the best iron player over the last 6 tournaments, 24 rounds, is Russ Henley, which that's no shocker. I've kind of talked about quite a bit with you guys. For a bit, he even was better than Morikawa with the irons. People kind of forget that or don't know that. I like Russ on shorter tracks like the Sony, whereas Bermuda involved, but this course fits him. It's what's the putter going to do? Makes me a little leery. Again, Paul Casey shows up, Woodland, Percy, List, Smotherman, Finau, Luke Donald, Neesmith, Taylor, Svensson, great ball striker. Again, terrible around the green, terrible putter. Party Marty Lair, CT Pan, and he had Homa and Stewart again. That's your best approach players. Now, if you want to know specifically who's the best from 175 to 200, a bit of a shocker, Satoshi Kodaira, who again had a good showing at the Mexico Open. And side note, I don't think this is bringing in the stroke gain data, just so you guys know, that was not in here. But Ricky Fowler shows up, Smotherman, Abby Barnrat, did really well at the Mexico Open from a par 3 perspective. I think it was what they said, number 5. He, of course, had a hole in one, birdie, and then parred it. Siwoo Kim, good all around. I think his game has actually gotten a little better all around. His putter is still hit or miss, but around the greens gotten a lot better. Webb Simpson, I can't do it. I think he's a good fit here 2 years ago, Webb Simpson, but still a little leery on him. Vaughn Taylor, who actually WD'd out of the Mexico Open, so we'll see how that goes. Of course, Straka, who won the Honda. You got Leishman, whose putter has just went south, has not been good all year. You got Svensson, Kitayama, of course, just showed up at the Mexico Open. Abraham Ancer, Laird. Nate Lashley was one of my picks, if you guys remember. Actually, right when I was doing my picks, I kind of switched from CT Pan to Lashley. But told you to play them both, and they both worked out pretty decent. And then Jared Wolf. If you want a little bit of history just specifically at this course, now again, this is pretty much the 2 tournaments I've already mentioned. Of course, no shocker. And this is against my model, which also tells me it's a good model because Molinari, who just won here, shows up number 1. So that's good. Ricky shows up a ton here. If you're ballsy enough to pick Ricky at 7,400 or throw a bet on him, could be a little interesting. You got Ryan Armour, who I think had a 2nd place in 2018. You got Ben Martin King, Hosler, Bradley, Streelman, who has a course record here. Party Marty Lair, there's Hadley, again, Wagner, Answer. So this is a really short data sample. I mean, some of these guys had 1 tournament or 4 rounds, but I threw it up here for you guys. We have it. Just so you have it, I have it. You guys have it now. All right, now the comp courses. I've got pretty much 4 or 5 if you include TPC Potomac, even though that's a while ago. I think the best is probably TPC River Highlands. That's where they play the Travelers. Very similar on all fronts. You got the Colonial, where they play the Charles Schwab. It's, all bent greens, all these, all, I believe, par 70 and around 7,100 yards. And, have the trees, have some undulation. I think the Colonial's kind of flat compared to what the Travelers, and the John Deere has a bit of, up and down hills. And also, I think I played in RBC Heritage. Whenever I get these kind of courses, I always throw that in there. It's like on my 5th. It's not on here, but pretty sure that is in this model. Long story short, out of those courses, over the last 6 tournaments they played on these courses, the number 1 guy that shows up is Abraham Ancer. Corey Connors next, Bradley. Lucas Glover, I think is interesting. Webb, Gim, Molinari, Garcia. I didn't even know he was in the field, but Sergio Garcia. And then EVR, I believe he's pulled out. I had to verify that, but he was showing up earlier. I don't see him here, but he'd be. I went to go bet him, and he wasn't in there, so I'm guessing he's out. Leishman, Svensson, Henley, McElroy, Woodland, Casey, Streelman. So that's your guys, top 15 players against those comp courses. With all that said, I'm going to give you my favorite bets. Number 1, no shocker, Russ Henley. This is on PointsBet. He's 33 to 1. So what I've noticed is that if the guys that are, the favorites, we'll say the top 20 favorites, if you play them on DraftKings Sportsbook, you're going to get worse odds. But if you want the guys that are like less favorite, that's where you want to play DraftKings Sportsbook. So they have higher odds on the cheaper players, we want to say, or the less likely. But the guys that are favored, DraftKings Sportsbook doesn't have the best odds. If you want to go to PointsBet, I'm not sponsored by them or backed by them, but I've just noticed this. So I've got both that I run now. because I think it was like 20-1 for Henley on DraftKings Sportsbook. At least that's what I remember. It could be 28. It doesn't matter. But you're getting 33-1 at PointsBet, so go check that out. The first guy I thought of was Cameron Young. When I saw this tournament, he was going to be in it because I was blown away on how he tore apart RBC Heritage. And again, I mentioned RBC Heritage is a little different course than if you've been watching Harbor Town and watching the RBC for many, many years. That course was way tighter. You know, they lost some trees, but they did add a little length, I guess, maybe to try to compensate. So it actually is kind of coming to a ball striker's course. Now, all courses are ball striker courses. I'm just saying where guys that have really exceptional length out the tee, you don't think of when you go to kind of like an RBC Heritage. But he's very accurate. I mean, Cameron Young, everything that I've seen to date, he has all the tools to be a top 10 player. So when I saw 40-1, I jumped all over that. Now, who knows? It could go poo-poo. But I mean, a guy, you know, is just kind of nipping to get his first win. If it's not here, it could be here. I'm not saying, in my mind, again, this isn't a perfect fit for him. Just proved me at RBC. So I'm like, okay, man, let's see if he can go do it again. Lucas Glover, I hit last year at John Deere. I don't think his odds were this good. I think it was like 60-1 or something like that. But he's 100-1. Again, I think that's on. It doesn't matter. I think, but go find 100-1. It's out there. Right. I mean, the guy's an elite ball striker. And if that putter goes like what it did at the John Deere, which is bent green, similar, we could have another nice little payday from Lucas Glover. Bo Hosler, he just, you know, he's been showing up, right? He had that, second or third at the AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. And he's been playing some decent golf, and he's had some good showings here. So I liked him for 100-1. And again, just so you guys know, these are focused, not the guys I think, you know, ultimately had the best chance to win. These are the guys I think had the best odds with a good chance to win. Last but not least, Cam Davis. I threw him in here. Of course, he had that showing, of course, at RBC2, which again was a shocker because what I think of Cam Davis is a really good ball striker, great length off the tee, but not the greatest around the green or putter, which maybe this course will lend itself to, again, what I'm kind of seeing. And when he won the Rocket Mortgage, that's on bent greens, which I knew that because I was there. Not for him, but when Nate Lashley won. And so, yeah, I like that bet, 100-1. He's showing good form, bent greens. And if he can do it at RBC Heritage, a lot like Cameron Young, why not here? All right, last but not least, my long shot that you guys are always so much loving in. I keep coming close, right? We had Mullinex last week, or Brandon Hagee. I forget which one. But, you know, I had Mullinex was a long shot too. I mean, my long shots have been nipping. We haven't hit one yet, but we've been close. So the one I've got for this week is 200-1 to win, outright winner, and 35-1 for a top five. And no shocker, you guys probably already know who this is because I talked a little bit about him, but he's already had two top fives at this course, at the Quicken Loans. And the Byron Nelson is a winner on the tour. That was actually at Trinity Forest, which is a pretty good comparable course. I believe it's Bermuda greens, but it's like a less than 7,200, par 71. But they didn't play there a whole lot, so I didn't include that in the model. Arnold Palmer had a good showing. Valero, the Genesis, Arnold Palmer again. So he typically seems like if he does well at a course, he kind of keeps showing up. Also, the RBC pops in there, the Sony, the Honda's not a bad comparable. With all that said, no shocker, Sung Kang, man. Why not? Especially that top five. So I smashed that in at 200-1 to win. Guys, you know, horses for courses. So we'll see if that happens. Even the top 10, I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing you probably get 10-1 or something like that. So check out Sung Kang. I put a few shackles on that. All right, with that said, that's it. That's going to wrap up my show. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope that was very informational. I hope that helps you if you are going to be playing in the Wells Fargo or your bets. And I do recommend if you're going to be betting, especially on the long shot side, start hitting those because typically as our analyst videos come out, the odds start to drop as people jump on kind of what we're doing. If you do me the honor, as always, please click that like button, share, give me some comments, tell me how I'm doing, tell me what you thought about the Mexico Open. Who do you guys like from a long shot? When I say that, it's, you know, kind of a 100-1. Always interested. Everybody's always got kind of a different maybe viewpoint that I might be missing. If you've not subscribed, would you please hit that subscribe button? It keeps me doing what I'm doing. And I put out 3 videos a week chock full of information. Last but not least, check me out on Twitter at DFS Golf Guru. Been growing that a little bit and just keep putting out all the information that I get from PGA Tour Communications or anything else that I see that you guys need to be aware of. All right, with that said, I'm excited about the Wells Fargo, even though it's not at Quail. And hopefully we can, I'm more excited to try to hit a nice little bet. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Okay, so I'd like to bring to your attention again, Craftsman Golf. That's at www.craftsmangolf.com. And of course, you've got Mother's Day, Father's Day. If you are looking for unique gift ideas for your golfer, go check out Craftsman Golf, where they've got everything customized, American made, from head covers, putter covers, yardage book covers, GPS rangefind covers, even to charge your golf cart batteries, Sunday bags, you name it, they've got it. Give them a check, and if you purchase anything over $40, you can get $20 off by typing in the promo code GolfGuru20. So give them a look-see.